Hi, I'm Lou Green. Welcome to America's Crossroads. Hi, welcome to America's Crossroads. Today we're going to put the spotlight on Wrigley Field in Chicago. And then we're going to spend a little time with Sharon Calvert on On Tampa Bay. And then a look into the rearview mirror at an historic tavern in Heidelberg, Germany, the Red Ox. Let's go to Wrigley Field.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Taking the Red Line subway now. We're going down into the subway and headed to Wrigley Field. Here comes the train. Right here. We're on the subway platform here at Wrigley Field. This is the Cubs band, so follow me for some fun. The Cubby Lounge, which is across the street from home plate at Wrigley Field. This place is an absolute gold mine. I wish I owned it. Okay, the game is over. The Cubs lost again. There's no surprise there. But Pittsburgh put on a pretty good thing today, didn't they, Tom?
Sure, it's always a good show.
See, I'm with Tom Bartlett right here. You saw him playing with the Chicago Cubs band, and I wanted to talk to Tom about the Chicago Cubs band because he's been in it for a long, long time. So talk to me, Tom.
Long time. Well, the band's been here for 32 years. I've been here about half of that, and then I was subbing even before that. So over a period of 20-some years, I've been part of the band. I mean, it's a gift gig because you get to see a ball game and you get paid for it. I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, it's a lot of fun. I always enjoy the games.
Do you get to play a lot of postseason games and World Series games and things like that, Tom?
We're hoping. That might happen soon. I keep my calendar open for October, but so far nothing has happened.
Well, the Chicago Cubs have the best vacation policy in all of sports, and they're known for that. So if you're going to be a ball player, young man, play for the Cubs because you get a lot of downtime. Now,
well, the advertisements are good, though. I mean, you get a lot of extra little,
now, what about funny things that have happened in the stands over the years? Do you have any stories, Tom?
Well, I've got two quick ones I can think of. Mike Ditka, the former coach of Chicago Bears, was asked to sing the seventh inning stretch, and he decided to have a few pops at the local tavern before he came up the elevator, and he absolutely obliterated it with just awful, and people to this day say that was one of the funniest days they've ever heard him trying to sing that thing. The other thing was pretty cool. One of the opening days, we were on the field about to play, and deluge, a downpour, just came down like crazy. So the microphone guys are all running to put their equipment away, and the ball players all running back into their dugouts. And I looked around, and there were a couple guys in the Cubs dugout waving me over to get out of the rain. So I came over, and I found myself sitting between Billy Williams and Ernie Banks, the two legends of the Cubs. Now, they were kind of coaches, I guess, because they had uniforms on, so you have to have a uniform on to be on the field. And I sat there, and we're just kind of looking around rather uncomfortably, and Ernie says, "Play me a tune." I said, "Okay, what do you want to hear?" Of all tunes for him to pick was "Oh Susanna," which I found a little strange, but I took the trombone, but "Oh Susanna," he sang along, we kind of clapped and stuff. It was a great moment. The rain stopped, and see you later, and the two legends. It was a magical moment.
Tom, it should have been on YouTube.
Exactly, yeah.
It would have gone viral. Anyway, thanks for coming on the show, Tom. And it was a great ball game today, and it was great finding this backyard right off of Clark Street. We were pretty lucky.
It's always a great ball game.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of who wins. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame.
Thank you very much, Tom, and the Chicago Cubs band from Wrigley Field. Now it's off to On Tampa Bay with Sharon Calvert and a discussion on public policy.
Hi, I'm Sharon Calvert, and this is On Tampa Bay. And I'm here with Lou Green today, and we're going to talk a little bit about public policy, because there's good policies and there's bad policies.
There's probably more bad policies than good policies these days, wouldn't you say?
I'd say that's true, because what we've seen is the policies that are written today are voluminous.
Well, is it something where people are writing policies so they can go back home and say, I did something, instead of going back home and say, I fixed something?
That is a very good way of putting that.
Think?
But today, I think we're getting a little bit smarter out there, because we had a recent election over in Pinellas County in the Congressional District 13 special election. And it seems to me that election, a lot of the voters went out rejecting bad policy, and that bad policy is Obamacare.
Well, yeah. That when you have a bill that the regulations attached to the bill become a stack of paper 7 feet high, there's nobody in the world that can figure that jigsaw puzzle out.
No, and there's no way they can enforce it either.
No.
I mean, it just becomes a mess. And so I think voters realize that, and we'll have to see going into the November elections how that's going to play out, because it sure seems to me that more seats may be up for grabs than originally people thought.
Oh, yeah, and there's going to be some surprises.
There is going to be some surprises.
Oh, yes. Now, let's put a crystal ball right here. And I'll be, Swami, and look at the crystal ball. What do you see in the crystal ball down the road? Do you think there's an awakening? Do you think finally the the sleeping giant is paying attention?
Well, I definitely think with Obamacare we are now, because we're all being personally affected by it. But I also think that there's an awakening for just good public policy, and good public policy doesn't have to be ideologically driven, because what's lacking today with good public policy is just good old common sense.
Let people do what they're going to do. Let people run their businesses. Stay out of their hair. Don't concoct silly laws for the sake of saying that, look what I did for the people, when you're actually saying, look what I did to the people.
And I think that, let's go back to 2012 in Hillsborough County, where there was a referendum that got on the ballot, local referendum, about putting financial information and financial impact information on any future referendums. Well, in our county that actually voted for Obama in 2012, that referendum passed. So there again, I think good public policy, common sense that says, when a voter is going to be asked to vote on something at the local level, that they actually know what it's going to cost or how much revenue might be generated. That's good public policy. So you can see that it doesn't matter where exactly you may, fall on the political spectrum. It's just some common sense.
Well, you and I were speaking coming over here about an idea because of the internet and the incredible number of ways that people can easily communicate their ideas, that the elected officials should easily explain why they support something, why they vote for something, or why they voted the way they did, so that everybody can go to their site or to Facebook or Twitter or whatever and get the short, concise answer.
That's exactly right. We've got technology today where we can get an instantaneous communication out to voters. And I think Congressional Rep. Justin Amash has really led in the forefront of that, because he on Facebook explains every single congressional vote that he makes. And I think today, why going into an election and future elections, why don't we vet our candidates on it that says, we want to know why you voted a certain way. So when you take a vote, use that technology and let your constituents know, because we're not always going to get the FaceTime with you. Whether you're maybe easier locally, but if you're in Tallahassee, we certainly don't get those opportunities. But tell your constituents, how you voted and why. I think today it's easy to do, and there's no reason why our elected representatives can't do that. Well, they should do that.
When you buy a house, you usually get a home inspection so you can find all of the barnacles and everything in the house. When you buy a car, you do the research on Consumer Reports. Now you can do a research on the history of a used car. When you go to see a doctor, if you can go see the doctor, you talk to your friends and other people who might have gone there and had an experience, so you get some background on these people, or on the house or the car or the doctor or whatever, the dentist. But politicians seem to have gotten a pass along the way.
They have. It's actually been quite difficult sometimes to get their voting record. There are websites now at the national level that do track some of that, but that's just tracking the vote. That's not asking, why did you vote the way that you did? And the only person that can answer that question is the elected officials themselves. So again, we've got the technology, and I do believe that holding them accountable will help drive that good public policy, because good policies, I think, will generally benefit a broad audience, because it's something that makes sense, it's easy to understand, and you don't have to dance around why you voted for it. You voted for it because it's good public policy.
Yeah. Well, I had a little thought go through my my brain, which didn't take long. But my feeling is every politician should have a letter of resignation when he accepts the job, and then there's a halftime show. If you don't make the cut, you don't make the cut. I don't think that'll pass because they vote on that.
Well, some folks, and I'm probably in that corner, that think that, there are, it's very difficult to run against incumbents. I mean, I know that. I ran against one. Yeah. But if you've been in office, you should know how they voted. You should know why they voted, because their past will be a great reflection on what their future is going to look like. Yeah. So it's a good vetting tool, and we need to get to the point where the candidates themselves just say, you know what, I'm going to do like Justin Amish did, and I'm going to post all my votes online. I'm going to tell you why I voted, and we as constituents don't even have to ask, but it's just being done. Yeah, well, it would give you a little bit of confidence in the voting booth of which person you'd like to vote for and why, in order to have some kind of assurance that they're going to follow through with what they talked about on the campaign trail. Well, that's exactly right, because policy, if your principles, if you understand what your principles are, then your policies on various issues should be driven by where you stand, what you believe in, your values and your principles. So it actually makes it easier for a candidate to explain where they stand on an issue or why they are for or against public policy issue, because whether it agrees with their principles or it doesn't. And so that kind of, I think, would take out, enabling the special interests or other influences to guide those decisions, rather than where you stand on your platform, your principles, and your values. And I think that's would be a comfort level to voters today, because there's just so much distrust. Well, obviously there's distrust, but it's not that bad. But in some cases, it might be that bad. Well, I think it's an issue, and with the form of government that we have, where we elect representatives to represent us, that distrust is not healthy. And so we need to do something, and I think our elected officials sort of need an attitude change that brings back that public trust. Because I think, until that happens, you are going to see the distrust there. And I don't think it's just healthy for our form of government. Is it helpful then for the people who are watching this and reading the blogs and all to get a little bit involved and go to the meetings, hold them accountable and say, why don't you post the reasons you're voting the way you are? Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm all for transparency. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why we do the blogs and why we're doing this. The more that the taxpayers, the voters, the constituents, the citizens, the more that we know, the better off we are. I mean, that's just the way our society needs to work. We need an informed electorate, and I've always said this, that voters will be smarter than you think when they're informed. I do believe when they're fully informed that they'll make the right decisions. Yeah, well, good. And we're not going to fix it right here, but we're working on it. Well, that's exactly right. And I think one of the reasons why we are doing this is just to make sure that the truth gets out there, because the truth seems to be also lacking. And unfortunately, the media today will only tell half of it, part of it, none of it. And that's not good. So we really do need to make sure that all sides of an issue are provided, and that so voters have an opportunity to then make their decision. Great, very good. Thank you. Well, Lou, it's been great, and this is another episode of Eye on Tampa Bay, and I'm Sharon Calvert. I'm Lou Green, and Sharon's keeping an eye on Tampa Bay at all times. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you, Sharon. You're always interesting and always informative. Now, it's off to Heidelberg, Germany. That's where the rearview mirror is taking us back in time to the oldest tavern in Heidelberg, the Red Ox. Away we go.
Today, I'm on Hauptstrasse, which is Main Street in Heidelberg, Germany, in front of the Red Ox Tavern. Now, the Red Ox Tavern is a landmark in this landmark city, and we're going to have a discussion with the owner of this establishment and get a little bit of hands-on history about not only the Red Ox Tavern, but Heidelberg itself. So let's go inside and see what he has to dish up today. I'm with Philipp Spengel at the Red Ox, and I'll let Philipp tell you more about it, but welcome to the show, Philipp.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So tell me about the Red Ox.
Yes, well, the Red Ox is in the same family now next year since 175 years, and I'm the owner now in the 6th generation. In former times, it used to be a typical student pub until the Second World War, and after this time it used to get a normal German Gaststätte, as we say.
So you have a long history. When was this building erected?
The house was built in 1703. So it's more than 300 years old, and it's one of the oldest in Heidelberg.
Is it haunted?
Pardon?
Are there ghosts?
No.
Well, as a student hangout, that has changed a lot over the years, hasn't it?
Yes, of course. Now it used to be a normal Gaststätte. We have all different guests here. We have a lot of Heidelberg guests who are coming once a month. We have a lot of people coming out of the region, Heidelberg, Mannheim, and Frankfurt, Stuttgart. We have a lot of people who are coming with companies here all over Germany and the world, and also we have a lot of tourists all over the world, and also we have student fraternities who still come here, some in also more than 100 years now.
Yeah. So you can tell by the writings on the tables who's been here, because they carve their initials in and all.
We have some initials in the tables, but we also have 30 guest books here. For example, Mark Twain, Theodor Heuss, the wife of President Eisenhower, John Foster Dulles, Marilyn Monroe, John Wayne, and a lot of more. So this is the picture of Mammy Eisenhower and with my family. So this is me 44 years ago. As you see.
Right.
And just on top here, this is original letter from our first Chancellor Bismarck. It's from 1892, and it's a letter to my grandfather.
And this is Bismarck.
Yes.
Was that Bismarck Platz?
Yes. This is my father, and you see him with a lot of guest books which we have. In this window there is the picture of Mark Twain. It's hand signatured from him. He was here in Heidelberg.
Yeah. I see he was on Philosopher's Walk as well.
Yes, and he used to come here in the Red Ox.
Darf man mal ganz kurz reingucken? Oder?
Ich bin gerade, im Moment geht es nicht. Wir öffnen später dann.
Ja, wir sind mit dem Bus da, wir sind später dann gleich wieder weg.
Kleinen Moment bitte, gell?
And what about the horns up here?
The horns are from the students. They used to drink out of the horn, the beer and wine. So they are still hanging here.
That's great where you could come in and, I'll just do this. It's great where you could come in and say, give me a horn full of beer.
Yes, of course. But it's very difficult to drink out of them.
I can imagine.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. In the meantime, I'm going to hit the road.